They tell you this country was built by law. But in one stretch of land along the Mississippi River, the law arrived after the land was already gone. Here is the question they never want asked. If the paperwork came last, who did America really belong to? Most people believe they know this story. A young nation, empty land, expansion, progress. That belief feels complete, comfortable, finished. But it only survives if you stop asking how ownership actually works. The public version says land was claimed, paid for, and settled. Clean process, clear titles, mutual agreement. On the ground, it looked different. Families woke up to survey stakes where homes had stood for generations. Courts ruled on titles the occupants had never seen. Maps changed faster than people could move. Here is the first contradiction. Many of the documents used to justify removal were written after the land was already taken. Hold that thought, because that decision triggered something no one predicted. The country begins with a story of absence, empty wilderness, untouched soil, waiting. But land does not become empty by accident. It becomes empty through force, displacement, and erasure. When European powers arrived, they did not encounter vacancy. They encountered systems, farms, trade routes, governance, law. But acknowledging that created a problem. If land was already owned, it could not be claimed. If it was already governed, it could not be discovered. So language shifted. Presence became invisibility. Ownership became occupation. Civilization became something only one group was allowed to define. This is where the first legal fiction appears, the doctrine of discovery. It did not argue land was uninhabited. It argued the inhabitants did not count. That single idea quietly rewired morality, because once humanity is conditional, ownership follows power. But that decision triggered something no one predicted. The public believes law prevents violence. In this story, law arrives to explain it. Treaties were written after displacement, agreements signed under threat, signatures obtained from leaders who did not represent those removed. The same land was often sold multiple times, to different buyers, with different maps. Courts upheld these claims not because they were fair, but because undoing them threatened the entire system. Here is the quiet truth. Law did not stop theft. It stabilized it. Once land could be taken, legalized, and forgotten, a template was born. And that template did not stay on the frontier. Removal is remembered as tragedy. At the time, it was paperwork. Entire populations were reclassified. Not expelled, relocated. Language softened violence. Marches became migrations. Deaths became logistics. The public was told this was temporary, necessary, regrettable. But the land never returned. And that decision triggered something no one predicted. Because once removal could be processed calmly, it could be repeated efficiently. The frontier is remembered as freedom. In reality, it was accounting. Railroads needed corridors, investors needed certainty, the government needed growth. So land was measured, divided, and sold, not based on who lived there, but on who could leverage it. Those without documentation lost everything, not because they failed, because they were never counted. Here is the contradiction. Labor mattered until it belonged to the wrong people. And once that logic took hold, it never left. The frontier closed, the methods did not. Cities became the new territory. Redlining, zoning, eminent domain, homes seized for highways, neighborhoods erased for development, communities labeled blight, always legal, always justified, always final. The same logic persisted. Property is sacred, unless the owner is inconvenient. But that decision triggered something no one predicted. Because now, the theft wore professionalism. Land becomes wealth. Wealth becomes influence. Influence becomes policy. Those who lost land lost leverage. Those who gained it shaped the future. This is why inequality feels inherited. Because it is. The system does not reset. it compounds. And here is the most uncomfortable truth. Nothing in the structure requires correction. It only requires silence. This is not about guilt. It is about recognition. If ownership was built on force, then legalized, then normalized, what does legitimacy even mean? If the law was written by the beneficiary, what was justice protecting? And if this framework still operates, quietly, today, who is still being removed without the language to describe it? Do not answer that yet. Because once you do, you are no longer watching history. You are standing inside it. And the most dangerous question remains. If America was built on legal theft, what would accountability even look like? Silence. This story does not end, because the system never did. And until that changes, the land remembers even when people are told not to. This is Untold America. Some systems do not collapse. They persist. What you do next is part of the story. Choose to see it. Choose to speak it.